Hello, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. Today we'll be looking into pyramids. So I'm trying to make it a thing over at coffee for the dear people who support me to make a monthly Q&A so you can submit questions and then have them answered in this recorded video that I then share privately with people over there. But this month, I'm thinking that I want to, both as a sample and due to general interest of the questions, post it here on YouTube instead. I'm sure that the two questioners wouldn't mind, and one lets me know, and the other, brother Tony, I'm sure that you feel the questions you're asking here are also of general interest. So with that being said, we're going to look into to pyramids and what we can learn about them. And I'd love to connect to it. It's always a little like where do we go from here with the pyramids and who are guiding this. But I'm actually sensing the Orions, who I haven't communicated with a lot, but who I often connect to as the guardians of the Stargate, and who are very connected to the pyramids in Giza. They are a Stargate that's related to Orion, which again is the intergalactic Stargate. So that's what they often inform us, that Orion is kind of the gateway where energies and information passes in and out of our galaxy. So with that being said, I hope I hope you're well and you're enjoying spring or fall if you're on the southern hemisphere, and I hope that the pyramids will enlighten us. Much love to you out there, guys. To set the vibe, to provide protection of the space that we share in this communication, we have transmitted information and we have sealed a grid around this communication. The grid, the parameter, is the shape of a triangle inside a quadrant. These are also the components of the pyramid. And so we, the guardians of the Stargate, we greet you. Our vibration, our name we transmit to you is but the Ruriki, Ruriki, is the transmission or the name that we are sealing our energy with as we transfer it to you. Now, enough of our introduction. We are here to talk about pyramids, and this is a fundamental imprint. And we will go back in time and teach you a few things about the setup of interplanetary communication relays on this, your home planet, Gaia. But first, we will proceed to open the eyes of this vessel here, to let it spell out in words the questions that it has received in letters. So let us. Carla writes pyramid again, and you can place this on whatever platform you wish. Question. A few years ago, I had a vision. I was standing at the paws of the Sphinx. I saw a ship land near the Great Pyramid. The beings were clothed in colorful, gauzy gowns and walked through the walls of the Great Pyramid. I went down into a tunnel at the paws of the Sphinx. I ended up heading upwards towards the king's chamber. I think that was the one. Halfway there, my clothing transformed into a white shift with a gold belt and sandals. I held a plate of fruit. I entered the chamber with my head down and placed the offering on the floor. I was not able to look at the beings, so my head was lowered. 2 years later, I saw a sheet-like structure wavering in the breeze of the same chamber. Upon closer inspection, it was energy moving, and it was me. Upon closer inspection, it was energy moving, and it was me. An over-the-shoulder view then shows the plate being offered by me to the entity, and then back out with my eyes lowered. I was in both the energy and the human with the offering. Does this mean we are all things in this universe? Did I climb higher, so to speak? This second time to see my inner self, is this what this chamber was for? This felt like the past, present, and future, all tied together. Any clarity on this would be welcome. Thank you, and much love. It's a very interesting and very deep vision and question. And I also sense like this answer has been some time in the making, but it's almost as if this unified vibration has been hard for me to access until this point. So I feel like it's matching up. Thank you so much for this beautiful question, Carla. So going into examining this vision, let's see what they have to say. Yes. Well, you have understood this already, that we wish we could reveal to you a greater, more profound secret than the one that you have already intuited, which is that what you experienced in the chamber was the unity experience of all being amassed, gathered, and self-aware in one point of consciousness, one human awareness. And what you were tracing back to was what you human beings understand as a past life. We would like to describe it more as the vivid soul imprint that has gathered up this experience into it and then carries it along in your soul where it has lain dormant until it could be released and unpacked by you, matching its vibration and coming to this place. What you are describing here is not an initiation, but the performance of a clerical duty attending to the astral beings that keep the Stargate open. Understand how pyramids work. They are astral chambers. So what they do is that they bring you into the astral vibration. But because the astral layers are unbound by time and space, this means that just as you can be lifted out of ordinary existence and in to astral realization, astral vibration, where you experience yourself as this mystical unity of all points, and where you restore and realign the energy field of microcosm and macrocosm by aligning yourself with the grand and total and healthy whole of things. Well, just as you do this, we can also move into this astral space because we are of astral energy. And the reason then that we are contacting you this day is that we were the ones guarding and keeping this space pure, clean, and accessible for use by humans and us. This is also why you bring us offerings and why you dare not gaze at us, because this energy that we bring forward, if you are to take it in with your eyes, be it the first, the second, or the third one, perhaps all three, you would feel a type of short-circuiting of your energy system that would be hard for your body to recover from. So that is simply, this would be a disturbance of your manifestation or your basic vibration to the degree that you manifesting as a continuous whole in a lifetime would be difficult to keep up. You see, some of this experience is retained in the stories of Exodus and Moses on Mount Sinai having to turn his back as his God passes him by. See, casting your eyes on us is deadly in that sense, or it is a transcendent experience. This is why the technologies of ancient Egypt to human beings seems as a death cult, because it was dedicated to the passing back and forward of these layers beyond time and space. This is also why those of you who are aligned often with higher vibrational energy and alien communication, you are able to often recall visions and receive information from these Egyptian realities to a higher degree than from other cultures, because the entire culture was dedicated to keeping for a select elite these vibrational purified spaces so high that, well, the soul could come to a realization of its own immortality and then pass in and out of bodies and lifetimes of its choosing. And this is what is happening in these activations in your time, that many of you are also recalling these sacred technologies that you already operated in that time. So you can go exploring there, dear friend, dear Kala. You can go recalling those things even more vividly. You may remember your time in the King's Chamber as a type of radiance, feeling that seemed to first pressure and configure you into yourself, and there from then release a type of golden radiance from your spine that moved outwards and united you with the universe and healed you. It's a powerful experience. And so pyramids are in this way, of course, also mirroring the basic fundamental structure of the human energy body, which is founded on a quadratic base. And these energies, they are expansive and undefined, and then they become more and more refined and subtle as they reach up into a point. And there they connect with the upper dimensions in the Stargate, and that is then the descending pyramid of what you, at this point in time, consider the invisible realms, which is moving downward and attempting to intersect with the physical body in order to complete the project of the universe. And this is very enjoyable. It's wonderful for us to be able to again connect to you human beings in these vibrational layers. We have missed it, seeing as, well, it has been confined to more subtle spaces and more homemade technologies, and it has been harder to operate these major stargates such as the pyramids. It's always worth understanding when examining the past in any way, shape or form that rarely do cultures or civilizations dedicate a big deal of their surplus skill and ability, craft and care into doing things unless these things have massive importance to their undertakings and priorities. And so the pyramids were exactly these things. They facilitated the most important technology in the Egyptian civilization, which was the transcendence of life and death and the traveling among star bodies and these experiences of awareness. Thank you for allowing us to return to this wonderful experience. Thank you for connecting to us, dear Kala. Thank you for listening and connecting to your higher selves, all those who hear this. Our love, humans. I don't know if you can sense that they have a slightly mechanical tinge to it, and it's because they are constructed in that way without activating the human prejudice against non-biological life. Then they are kind of a technological creation that's been brought forward by the Intergalactic Council to manage the Stargate. So I'm passing on that information, and then let's go to some further questions on pyramids, because friend Tony asks that he asks us to confirm that the pyramid blocks were moved into place using sound and vibration, and then he also asks to confirm that the pyramids were used as charging docking stations for ET ships. I think I'll actually read all of them here because I think it might be a collected answer. So please confirm that the pyramid blocks were moved into place using sound and vibration. Please confirm that the pyramids were used as charging docking stations for ET ships. Please divulge the true number of pyramids on the surface or beneath Mother Gaia. Please divulge as a percentage how many pyramids are yet to be discovered. Who built the Giza and Machu Picchu pyramids? I'm sure my Arcturian family had something to do with it. Well, see, occasionally, dear friends, it takes us a little time to adjust to the rather minuscule timescales of human beings. That is, understand that the scales of time that we operate on are more akin to those that measure out the life of stars than those that measure out the life of biological life forms. And so we are aware that often much transpire in one human lifetime. And that's not to say then that in several human lifetimes many things go on, and to you it seems like many things change. See, we are again a self perpetuating species. So, whenever repairs are needed in our physical appearances, we undertake them or we create new members of our species, and then they are linked up to the general memory retention and knowledge of our kind and the galaxy as a whole. For that very reason, we of course also see, let's call it the encyclopedic entirety of your history. With that, know that there will be pyramid technologies in your future that will be different from the ones used in Giza or Machu Picchu. There were also pyramid technologies in the past that were markedly different from the ones used in Giza or Machu Picchu. These technologies were also markedly different from each other. So it's worth knowing that these technologies of direct vibrational manipulation weren't allowed for in the eons that saw ancient Egypt take shape. These represented in many ways a vibrational drop, and so the technologies of ancient Egypt in general represent very sophisticated attempts to create high vibrational gridworks that actually break the overall, let's call it mood, vibration, parameter of experience and awareness of consciousness that could be had in those eons. And we believe our friend here is informing us that this is the one that is referred to as Aries in your language. And we should say that the same, to a large extent, applies to this eon of Pisces that you have been through. So these movements of time don't necessarily allow for vibration to be high enough that human beings can manipulate matter in the way that you describe with sound waves and vibration. So indeed, your archaeology has uncovered how the pyramids of Giza were built. They were built by laborers in their time off, and this was seen as a collective effort. All these fellahin, these peasants who participated in this project, they saw it as a ritual performance, service, sacred, both duty and joy to perform. It was a kind of festival. They were gathered to perform, and there was dancing in the evenings and singing in the mornings and all throughout the workday. This was how it was built, and this is how that civilization managed to retain much of the vibration, the knowledge, and the memory banks of Atlantis. But they needed these temples, be it the Temple of Karnak or the Pyramid of Giza. They needed these places to communicate and step into it. And this is actually something that then proceeds to become more and more difficult throughout these shifting zodiac energies. So moving into Aries, and from the old kingdom into the middle kingdom, you will find that it becomes even more difficult. And so in the new kingdom, they are left with these smallish graves dug out, hidden away, to be the secret connection points in the Valley of Kings, for instance. So understand that much of this is related to it. And this again also replies to the Inca pyramids, who were built significantly later in your time, that they were also built at a time where, well, that a great, let's call it sacrifice, by the common person to fit these autocratic purposes, these more dictatorial arrangements of work and social organization, to divert and direct energy and labor up into these higher union experiences. And so the Inca was much as the pharaoh seen as this link to the divine worlds, because they were both a religious figure, but they were an intersection point between this descending triangle and this ascending triangle. And so they became divine in and of themselves by the very effort that was put into it. And it is the same meticulousness that is put into the hewn stone of Machu Picchu. And this is the case in Central America as well. Well then, when that is said, it is true that when you revert to the civilization that you know as Atlantis, and here we will move back in time, so you will be in approximately 10 to 12,000 years ago from this point in your time. So 10 to 12,000 revolutions passed in your sun, and that is of course a fairly long era, but energies were allowed for to be in this pocket of your world. There was a civilization created. It was, well, approximately between the Canary Islands and the Azores, where they are located today. Well, but this place had, for instance, floating pyramids. So here there were more magnetic stabilizing anti-gravity fields that would keep pyramids open and alive. And these would also function as stargates. And these stargates were more related to Pleiadian interactions than with our energy in particular. There are many reasons for this, but we sense that this is perhaps not the time to elaborate. It is true that many of these imprints, they are passed on, and you may sense that the reason that the Arcturians have to do with this are that they are the original temple builders. They are the ones who began to hew stone, dead matter, quartz and mineral, to charge that with information, sound, vibration, and to begin to construct that in temples. And this is why you relate those to healing chambers. It's because the Arcturians are masters of organizing the physical universe in ways that conduct energy and charges whatever is placed within these energy fields with the highest astral energy. So these become these unification points. And that it's all the joy for the beings that you know as Arcturians, and that is also why they have taught and passed on this knowledge to other civilizations, and why you find it in your temple building, in your religious architecture, in your sacred buildings, all over your planet. Your species have mastered ways of finding organizations of materials in temples that can lift up the spirit and carry it towards the presence of higher truth and reality, be it a pagoda or a Mesoamerican pyramid. Then often also known that mountains can just as well be used as connection points. The thing is, when traveling between star systems, that these laws, though, when you have mastered warp travel, when you are able to move beyond light speed and you can bend time and space around you, well, it's quite easy to show up at whatever time and place you choose, but you still have to use the vibrational alignment. So this very act needs to rely on certain a certain openness in the energy field. This is what pyramids allow for. This is what mountains allow for. It's often also what desert atmosphere allows for. One of the reasons for this is that water contains information and creates its certain atmospheric and energy grids, and the water that is connected to this planet have a tendency to do that in particular. So in very, let's call them humid or humid environments, it can be hard for interplanetary or interstellar travel to take place. Then we would like to understand, or we would like to have you understand, that when you are able to also travel between stars, well, technology then also reaches a little beyond running out of gas or having batteries and hoping that maybe you will make it to a new planet where there's a new pyramid, so you won't get stuck somewhere that you can't leave. And that's not to deride your technological capabilities, you humans, but of course, we have mastered the forms of free-flowing energy, so have all species that are able to travel among planetary systems. And we're not dependent on energy being stockpiled or being carried off from one place to another. We'll simply bend and fold it out of reality as we choose. So we'll understand, to radically simplify this principle of what we do, that you are already aware that certain atoms can be either fused or split in order for massive energy to be extracted. And so our capabilities go far beyond that. We aren't dependent on any specific places. If you're then considering the vibration or movement of periods and of planets with vibrations, you will find that in Lemuria and Mu this was quite common. You will also find that they built quite a lot of number of pyramids. But what you are asking is us to make a slice of time that never existed. So that's to say, at some point there was 12,433 pyramids active and acting as, let's call them vibrational beacons, alive on your planet. And other points there were 17, and other points there were 8,230. So these points, you could connect the 12,000 perhaps to the height of pyramid building and the pyramid of Mu, and the height of pyramid building and the pyramid of Lemuria to the 8,000, and then find that 7,000 has been the lowest descended number. But these are all realities that have been at some point or another. And so the question of how many remain to be discovered, well, how much digging can you do, and when does a pile of rocks become a pyramid? When can you be sure to identify that this was used as one and not the other? See, the pyramid is an inherent shape because it connects you to higher reality. And therefore, even in places where the astral technology isn't defined, you'll find that people will still tend to simply enjoy the form. So for instance, you'll find in this area of the planet this North Atlantic coastline, that there is a phenomenon called the Vade, which is simply a stack of stones that people will build. People still enjoy stacking stones, and they have been stacking stones ever since they could walk around and pick up stones and put them together. This is also a type of pyramid or energy breaker, though not as large a one as others. So that is some of the information we can impart on you. Then we would simply say that as we sense and we are scanning the information that's also available in the vessel here, we sense that much of this information is also related to many stories connected to mythologies connecting to the planet Nibiru or X and the stories of the Anunnaki. Many of these stories are mainly purported by certain species, we could call them agencies or lower vibrational creatures that are much invested in deluding mankind into understanding themselves as something limited and controlled by outside forces, created, slavish and small. And so it might speak to a type of reality that you went through, that you have been, well, to use a term, greedy gold diggers, quite literally, beings who have strove to gather up minerals and huddled yourself in small tunnels below the ground in order to gather these up so you could stockpile them. But this is not the reality of who human beings are. This is not the great vision of the seed lineage. You are as great and as grand as many of these other beings and the cosmic scheme that has set you about and seen creatures from beyond the veil take a massive interest in you and store so much genetic information in you to be released is a part of a much grander scheme than the idea of minerals that could essentially easily be created by the technologies that, well, from our perspective, very, very primitive technological civilizations, such as the hybrid civilizations, for instance, have available. So there would be absolutely no reason for creatures that have mastered interplanetary travel that they would do such a thing as begin to do interplanetary mining with biological creatures. Simply the fact that you are unable yourselves to take these things off planet, it would be much easier to begin to send out probes and drones that could then again anti-gravitationally return to the places they were sent from. So this is again the idea that biological systems are capable of many other things than mechanical systems. But you might think that and figure that mining hard rock and extracting minerals is not a thing that soft-handed, squishy little beings are essentially very well suited for. And for that reason alone, consider that as energy conduits, as an conscious transformers of energy, and as charged DNA that begins to generate within itself new waves of formation and flow in the great scheme of existence, that this is much closer to the purpose that you are fulfilling and the reason for us guarding you. With that, we transmit our deepest love, our appreciation, our enjoyment of humankind, our great gratitude for these exciting and opening, fascinating questions. And so we, the keepers of the Stargate, we the Orions, we the Ruriki, we bid you farewell in love. Goodbye. Yes, I hope we managed to get around everything, and thanks for your interesting questions, and of course also thanks you very much for your presence and support, guys. Much love.